Do the Ragin Cajuns go with experience or athleticism with their quarterback? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz back with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We got a special guest, Josh Jagno from Ragin Review will join us. We will talk the Ragin Cajuns spring game, the situation at quarterback. We'll also get into this little thing with LSU and the Ragin Cajuns playing baseball on Tuesday. This whole ULL, Louisiana, UL thing. It happened to be, I was coming into Acadiana and Lafayette in 2013 and just didn't understand it. And they were just kind of starting it at the time, and it's picked up steam since. And who bothers who, in terms of fan base. But you'll hear that Josh actually makes a very good point. One of those always a bright side kind of deals. So with no further ado, let's talk Ragin Cajuns with Ragin Review's Josh Jagno. Welcoming him back to the show, it's Josh Jagno from Ragin Review. It is Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I am Dave Schultz. We're both at the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns spring activities. Wasn't exactly a spring game. Instead of a leading question, as I did it in the title, what was your take of the spring game that we saw?
Many, but I think my biggest takeaway was I thought this roster was a lot more complete than I ever expected it to be. And obviously we know all the transition that happened the year prior, but I thought the depth was obvious all over the field. Defensive secondary, linebacker group. The offensive line is a completely remade unit that I thought showed a lot of promise from top to bottom on both sides, the white and the red. I think we have an obvious situation at quarterback that we can get to, and I'm sure we will. Right. I think the running back room is about as healthy as it's been in the last 3 years. I just think we're a complete roster at this point. I think there are a lot of athletes that jump off the page.
All right, so let's talk about the quarterback because obviously it was quite the spring for the Cajuns quarterback. They had one. Zeon Chriss basically took all of the snaps all spring long. Ben Wooldridge still recuperating from a knee injury, and you had Chandler Fields recuperating from an appendectomy. So hopefully he'll be healthier before Ben Wooldridge, but nonetheless, that put all of it on Zeon Chriss. That is hashtag always a bright side. He may have a sore shoulder, but he gets all the reps. Your thoughts on Zeon Chriss?
Well, I'll ask you a question first. Have you ever seen anything like that before, an all-time quarterback in a spring game?
I don't think so. Isn't that what we used to do with kids? We had like 7 people, and we took the best athlete. You're the all-time quarterback. You switched sides, right? That was awesome.
I think, well, to your point about always being a bright side, I think it's interesting because he was able to throw passes to the entire wide receiver room, the entire tight end room, whether it be fifth-year senior or true freshman. I mean, you got to see him display his talent across the board, so I thought that was interesting. One thing that really, and I know you saw the passes too, but some of the pinpoint accuracy that he showed was, and that's Zeon Chriss I'm speaking of, I thought it was not expected. I know that the guy has all the tools. I know he's athletic. His pocket presence, his size, sometimes just seeing it in person does something different for you. I was very impressed with his placement. Now, he threw a couple of interceptions over across the middle of the field, and that's going to come with learning, and I understand that. But take into consideration that the guy probably threw 65 passes, there are going to be a mistake or two that's going to be in the repertoire. So I don't know, Dave. I think that he looks the part. I thought that he commanded the offense well, and I know a lot of that stuff is cliche, but compared to where we were last year with so many question marks, I don't know. I think it's going to be a hard decision for Mike. I understand seniority and making promises to people and all that. I understand all those things. I think Zeon has a pretty good case to be a quarterback come August. What do you think?
So there's a lot there. All right. I'm with you about the loyalty thing, but to me, if that's what you're coming with, so Zeon Chriss is going to have to be not a little bit better. He's going to have to be a lot better than Chandler Fields. All right. Yes. He's going to have to be another level. All right. It's not like, well, who can win us ball games now? It's like, or who could win us ball games in November. He needs to be, I don't want to say exponentially better, but there's got to be a sizable difference between Chandler Fields and Zeon Chriss or Ben Wooldridge, I guess. Because if it was Ben Wooldridge was healthy, I would figure he would be the quarterback. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a thing. Again, I'm much more of a baseball guy than I am football guy, despite hosting this podcast. And so I'm going to use a baseball term that we've probably all heard. When the pitchers get on top of the ball, it kind of goes where they want to. They can direct it more. When they get underneath it is when they lose control. A couple of times, I'll be the first to tell you, sometimes I don't know what I'm seeing when I see football, but a couple of times it looked like Zeon got under the football and his throws sailed. It's not like he doesn't have an arm, but I thought his throws sailed. As for the interceptions, not seeing the film, I'm going to guess he lasered in on his wide receiver, and because I think those interceptions were all tipped, right? So someone else saw where the ball was going and tipped the balls, and then they got picked up. So that is a correctable thing, and easier to fix, just to be able to look off your wide receivers. The other mechanical things I think is probably easier to fix as well. But I guess it comes down to, do we want to go with experience or do you want to go with athleticism? On the other side, right, Chandler Fields is going to have to win the games, right, to keep his job early on. It can't just be, the season is really tough. The Cajun, off the top of my head, I think the Cajuns have a ridiculously hard schedule to begin the season. So, Chandler Fields is going to have to compete. We were joking yesterday on, my new show, Sports Chat on 103.3 The GOAT, right? Jalen Hurts got the all-time, contract. He didn't even start his first college game, right? Blake Barnett got the first two series before Jalen Hurts came in. I don't think it'll be like that for Chandler Fields, but Chandler Fields is going to have to be good if he's going to keep the job away from Zeon Chriss, because otherwise, do you get the two quarterback-ish thing again? That was kind of rotating last year for a bit for the Cajuns. We knew they did it specifically every fourth series with Levi Lewis in Napier's first year. But I would think that, Mike Desmo is going to make a decision, and we're going to go with this guy for a bit. And then if he doesn't work out, we'll go to the next guy. How long that matters, how long that takes, we'll see.
I think Coach Des was actually kind of vindicated towards the end of the season because, again, with both quarterbacks getting reps, I think you saw Chandler come in and really hold his own against Florida State in the second half, and you and I spoke about that.
What an impossible position, right?
Unbelievable.
The kid's been banged up. Let's go play Florida State at Tallahassee. Good luck. Come on.
And I thought that he performed well. I mean,
he did. He played pretty
well. Stats, they don't jump out at you, but just his command and the way that he operated in the second half, they didn't lay down, so I was proud of that. And then he played well against Houston in the bowl game. There are two things that people need to understand as well. The fans want Zeon. I mean, it's very clear. If you look at social media, if you listen to any amount of phone calls on the radio, it's a lot of Zeon talk. And when you're injured, that kind of comes with it. You're kind of put on the back burner for the time being. So he also kind of has that against him in a small way. But the other thing is that Chandler has the benefit of the seniority. He has the benefit of the playing time that Zeon doesn't have. But you also have the downside of, we kind of know who you are at this point, right? So Mike he's gotten plenty of tape, plenty of film. He knows who Chandler Fields is. Zeon the potential is unlimited. We're still figuring out who he is. So there's some unknown with Zeon. There's some enticement there with Zeon. Chandler already has his tape that's out there. He's going to have a really good fall, I think, to win the quarterback battle. That's just my opinion. Just seeing them in person and watching what they can do, I think that Zeon has the tools that Mike values in a quarterback. I thought the reason why you saw a lot of Ben and a lot of Chandler early is because Chandler could sling it, had a little bit of that runner in him. Ben just got out there and spread the field out and slung it around.
Right.
There were two things there that, as a quarterback, as a former quarterback, you see value in both of those things as Dez did, and I understand that. I think Zeon is a nice package of the two, and I looked at his footwork. I agree that some of his throws kind of sailed. That's a good point. When he started to throw into the teeth of the defense, there were a few times last year where he did stare down his one or two option, and I think that's something he's going to work through. I mean, Levi did that 3 years into his starting.
Yeah, that seems like everybody seems.
It's college football at this point.
Yeah.
But I will say, with regard to how he worked within the offense, he just looked extremely comfortable to me with everything going on around. It looked like he was having a good time. He didn't look flustered at any moment. And you got to remember, and we'll talk about defense if you want, but this is a very fast linebacker core. It's probably the strongest safety position group in the Sun Belt Conference for my money. And I'm a little bit of a fanboy on the back end because I think Tyree Skipper is just a freak athlete. But we got to keep in mind the competition that he was facing. So I'll give him some kudos and a little bit of a break on those couple of picks.
You got the pepper behind you. You got a Cajun sweatshirt on and a Louisiana cap on. You're not little fanboy, which is okay. That's all right. All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back and talk more with Ragin Review's Josh Jagno. What is the biggest difference he sees between Mike Desimo's offense and the offense that he inherited, Billy Napier's offense? But first, let's talk a little FanDuel. We got grand slams, no hitters, double plays. They're all back. And there's no better place to get in on the Major League action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Dave Schultz, more Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's get back and talk more with Ragin Review's Josh Jagno on the difference of offense between Mike Desimo, the new head coach, and the previous head coach, Billy Napier. We're talking with Josh Jagno from Ragin Review. How different is this offense in Mike Desimo's second full season as a Ragin Cajuns head coach compared to what Billy Napier was running just a couple years ago?
I think Mike's going to take a few more chances. You kind of saw throughout the course of Billy a lot of conservatism, didn't want to beat ourselves. We had so much leadership that he just trusted his guys to grind out things. I just think that Mike's going to take more chances. That's the kind of guy he is. That's his personality. And that's how Mike played when he was here. Go big or go home type offense. I think that, first of all, Zeon Perry, and, Zeon is one of the guys that stood out. I have him in my notes. He had the 360 25-yard scamper for the touchdown that we saw up the left sideline. I think that he adds an element that you thought you might get with Chris Smith over the course of his career. Unfortunately, Chris was hurt a lot, and some of his explosiveness was taken away from him, unfortunately, with those type of injuries. I think Zeon actually gives you that extra gear. I think with Zeon in the mix, he gives you the true zone read. He gives you the opportunity to take those big shots. He can stretch the field. He can lengthen the defense. I like what I see there. I like what I see at the tight end room, especially from the young guys. I think that you have more true pass catchers. Johnny Lumpkin was a great tight end, but he was a guy that got in there with the big packages and pushed people around. I like Neil Johnson at the tight end position. He's like a 10th year senior. He's been here forever. I trust those guys. I think that you're going to see a lot more vertical in the passing game, and I think we're going to get on the outside. I think we're going to set the edge a lot better this year with a full arsenal of offensive linemen that can do that are healthy and athletic. So I think that you see more chances on the offensive side, less conservatism. And again, going back to Zeon, I think Zeon gives you that extra little bit of something that can make that defense worry anytime he touches the football.
So let me get this straight. Was there a Zeon, a Zion, and a Xylon all on the same team?
That's correct.
Three guys with the first name with a Z in college football. Is that some sort of record? Did we look that one up?
Try having a couple of beers and doing a podcast and trying to say all those names correctly. Yeah. Sound like a fool a couple times.
Makes for a better post-game show. Josh Jagno on Ragin Review. It is Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I do, you point out the conservatism, and that really worked out to Billy Napier's favor, right? I think I was told heading into that bowl game, like they had 9 straight games without a turnover. That's ridiculous.
It was. I think for the season, we ended up plus 13. So that should tell you something. That's a number you don't really see. And then, he had the running game that could just ground and pound. And it was almost like the Nick Saban thing, right? When you get up, you just hold the football and take a team's will. And Billy did a lot of that. And he also put, I think, 3 offensive linemen in the NFL in his time here. So also
it's going to be 4 here in a second, right?
That's correct. And then you also saw 3 more running backs go to the NFL under Billy Napier. So It was a talent. The talent was very deep. The approach was what it was. They knew who they were. That was their identity. We're going to get up on you in the second half. We're going to grind you out. So I think Mike is going to probably keep the pedal down more often than Billy would have. And I promise you, we'll see, with more chances you take, more turnovers come. for me, this is a personal opinion. I'd rather take some chances and turn the football over from time to time. I didn't
Right.
love the conservative approach, but I did like winning. So that's it's an approach.
He also, scared money don't make money. So there wasn't total conservatism by Billy Napier, although I'm still not sure he got into the end zone on that play, but it was close.
That's a good point.
I will say, I'm not sure what that was that a 14-minute drive or 14-play drive against Arkansas State. I actually had a chance to talk to Butch Jones about that. Do you get a chance to admire that? I know you're in the middle of it. You're trying to stop it. You still think you got a chance to win. When do you sit back and say, wow, I wish we could do that? Hold on to the football for the entire quarter. And then, one of the things that I never thought happened was Levi Lewis running the football. He very rarely, with those RPOs, tucked it himself and ran. And then when he did, they got the first down instead of kicking the field goal and giving the ball back. To me, that is the most perfect drive of football I have ever seen.
It was a thing of beauty, and we didn't always get the 14-minute drive, but there were some 11s and 12s mixed in there. So
sure.
we did it well, we did it often, and look, it's winning football. It's not beautiful, it's not glamorous, it doesn't get people hollering and screaming, but it's winning football. And Mike will run the football. There's no question there will be a commitment to the running game, 100%. I just think that it's going to spread the field a lot more than Billy did. Billy just ran between the A and B gap and said, "Stop me." And nobody could do it.
Right. Yes.
And that was the beauty of that. If you like that old school ground and pound football, I think this will be a little bit different.
It kind of felt like a Roger Clemens fastball or a Greg Maddux breaking ball. He could tell you what was coming. And, hey, we're running left and we're running right. Good luck. So,
exactly. That's right.
A few more minutes here with Josh Jagno from a Ragin Review. It is Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. You mentioned you want to see Mike Desimo take more chances. Is that because of what's coming in the Sunbelt? Right, South Alabama is going to score over 30 points a game, or should, right? Maybe even close to 40 this year. We saw JMU start off with that last year. You got G.J. Kinney at Texas State claiming he's going to light up the scoreboard, and you got the number one offense from FCS, the coordinator, Kevin Deckert, now over at ODU. You still have the Marshalls and the Troys who are still going to win by offense, or win by defense, but they're going to want to see their offense improved. Do you think that is, you want to see more aggressiveness by Mike and the Cajuns because you kind of know what's in front of UL?
I think Coach Des and Coach Tim Leger just have it in their DNA to go after it. They go for it, If
Right.
I can use an example of last year, how many times we went for it on 4th and medium, 4th and 7. These guys are not scared to take a chance. A lot of that is trust in their players. Now, I think a lot of the games will dictate, when to make those decisions and how to take those chances. And I fully expect this defense to be very good, continue to be very good. I mean, we've had a good defense for 5-6 years now. But I just, like you said, the league is deep. It's deeper than it's ever been. I think Texas State takes a big step forward, as we kind of talked about the last time that we visited. South Alabama is not going to take a step back. I think Troy, I don't know what to think about Troy yet. They lose a lot on defense, but their offense looks like it's coming on. So I think you're going to have to score points to win in this league, especially in the West this year. And I think that factors into the game plan. I do. That's just a fanalist in me.
Right.
Again, I think it really just goes back to Coach Des and Coach Leger wanting to step on people and wanting to put the pedal to the floor. That's just my impression of how they're going to run this offensive football team.
All right, let's take one more time out. We'll wrap things up with Josh Jagno from Ragin Review here momentarily. But again, a special thanks for everyone that has hung with the podcast. We continue to grow. Again, Sun Belt Conference Tournament is coming to Lafayette. That will be a lot of fun. That is where I am now. I host afternoons on 103.3 The GOAT, the flagship home of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. And we'll hopefully go to baseball in Montgomery, and we'll do more with spring football basically wrapping up, right? Most of the teams have wrapped up. All right, so the one big thing about Josh Jagno is he is into this, and I don't know if he's trolling or if he's dragging people in, but a big deal around here is what the University of Louisiana at Lafayette calls himself or calls their sports teams, and who it bothers who the most on when the Cajuns are not referred to on how they want to be referred to. All right, for those who don't know, the name of the school is Louisiana Lafayette. All right, the athletic program likes to be known as Louisiana. That's a big deal to some. Bigger deal, make it a much bigger deal than it may be. But it is fun, and it feels like Again, I don't know if it's a bigger deal to LSU fans or UL fans or whatever the case may be. But let's hear what Josh Dagno has to say about it because it is a thing down here in Acadiana. Wrapping things up with Josh Dagno from Ragin Review, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, LSU playing the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns in baseball tonight, so this will be published following the ball game, actually the next day. But this seems like I came in here about 10 years ago, and we're right back at it. We got the whole UL and ULL, and now it's going on LSU. I'm not sure who gets more upset. Who's trolling who? Because as much as Cajun fans get upset, it just looks like LSU fans get just as upset. I find the whole thing fascinating. I don't know who's having more fun or who takes it more personally. What do you think?
So, they like to do the whole little brother, big brother stuff.
Right.
Well,
right. It is what it is.
Sometimes you can go ahead and own that kind of a moniker. And I think that especially the generation of my generation of fans, I think that we've kind of taken it. And is Eric older than you or is he younger than you?
Who's that?
Your brother, Eric.
Oh, my brother. He's the youngest. Yeah.
So there's got to be a time in your childhood where Eric would get under your skin, you'd holler and scream, and he'd get the last. It's kind of like getting a 15-yard penalty. You poke him in the chest, and then they turn around, punch you, and you get the 15-yarder because you reacted.
Josh, what are you talking about in our childhood? I'm back in Lafayette for the first time in 4 years, and my brother gets a succession screen credit. What are you talking about childhood? This happened Sunday.
You see how angry you are right now? That is the LSU. So on the podcast, we don't even say the 3 letters anymore. We just call them that school across the basin. So that school across the basin and their crazy fans get upset at us because we won't refer to them the way they want to be referred to, and we call ourselves Louisiana. So it's been a fun tit for tat. And it's kind of grown into its own monster now. Now it's just
has.
It's part of the lexicon of southwestern Louisiana sports. It's a countrywide thing now. Everybody knows about it, which benefits us, by the way. And they don't understand that it benefits.
Sure.
We're punching up, and they're giving us credibility.
Right, there you go. Yeah,
so we run with it now. We make it into a thing. It's fine with me. But look, I love it. We had a consultant come in here, and Rick Jones from Fish Bait Solutions. He was one of the guys that started to help Mike Alden do a lot of the information gathering on UL and Lafayette and how we can help our brand and market ourselves. And the number one thing he told these guys was, you got to forget ULM, you got to forget Ruston, you got to forget Lake Charles, obviously. You need to make a rivalry out of the school in Baton Rouge. And as soon as that man told me that, I've been poking at them ever since.
There you go.
And it's working.
Well, I love the idea. They play baseball every year. Once every few years, LSU comes to the TIG. That's outstanding. Paul Maneri did that. Great job by him. Softball is back playing against each other. I don't know if you know this, but basketball actually practiced against each other on the lowdown because there's no exhibition games. They'll never play football against each other, but it'd be nice to see a home and home for basketball once in a blue moon.
And there's no real reason why it can't happen.
Right.
We can accommodate their fans here. We have a nice arena. It would be great for the sport in the state. And if Bob continues to win at a clip that he's been winning, a decent RPI helps LSU. So I think that basketball is the next hurdle, the next obvious hurdle between the relationship of the schools, and we can get that rolling. You saw Kim Mulkey come in and play Gary Broadhead's girls a couple of years ago, and that was a pretty nice event in the Dome.
That's great.
There's no reason why it shouldn't happen, and I think it can be beneficial to both.
He is Josh Dagno, Ragin Review, hopping on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Really appreciate the time, Josh. Take care.
Anytime, pal. You let me know anytime you need it.